Thanks for clicking on to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. It has been a busy week here on the channel. Last night at 11:30 till around, well, it was just after 11:30 p.m. till just before 20 to 1 in the morning, I done the very first midweek live stream. So if you haven't already done so and you're interested, do check out the live stream that was on last night. It was good. Over 40 concurrent viewers at one point, so I was absolutely delighted by that because honestly, my plan was just to do an uploaded video as Hurricane Milton moved ashore, but I thought I'm going to go live. I did so around 25 to midnight and ended around about 12:30 a.m. this morning, because I worked night shift anyway, so I was up and about. But it was amazing the amount of people that actually tuned in last night for the Hurricane Milton special live stream. So you can, if you're interested, you can watch that back at your leisure. So yeah, Milton made landfall last night. It did come ashore quicker than expected, and this is a 24-hour loop showing the system coming ashore at Siesta Key, just to the south of the Tampa Bay area. A saving grace was the fact that it stayed to the south of Tampa, which meant that the worst of the storm surge did not go into that region. Obviously, we did see devastating impacts elsewhere due to the landfall, obviously, and the system crossed the Florida Peninsula and is currently now, according to NHC, still an 80 mile per hour hurricane, 983 millibars, moving in a northeasterly direction at 20 miles per hour. So you can see its position to the east of the Florida Peninsula here. We still have Leslie as a 90 mile per hour hurricane, 980 millibars, moving in a west-northwest direction at 7 miles per hour. There will be no tropical outlook today, by the way. I'm going to have a couple of days rest from doing 2 videos per day. But yeah, there's plenty of things coming up here in the channel. Upcoming weekend, Tropical Outlook on Saturday. And then at 7:30 p.m. On Sunday, we will be live looking at the after effects of both Hurricane Milton, its impacts in Florida, but also we're going to look at the ex-Hurricane Kirk as well. We're going to look at the remnants of what happened with Kirk in just a second. But there is so many things going on at the moment, it's hard to keep up, actually. Look at this here. This is a photograph captured by Aaron Rigsby of homes along the immediate coast of Venice in Florida, buried up to their roofs from sand left behind by both Helene as well as Milton. So pretty astonishing images now coming out of Florida after the passage of Milton. Also, 24-hour rainfall totals 4 to 6 times the October average has fallen, with a widespread area of 10 inches or more. You can see it here extending from Tampa Bay all the way up towards the Orlando area, of in excess of 10 inches of rain. So pretty crazy amounts of rain, record-breaking rainfall. According to Greg Carbon, estimated hourly accumulated rainfall over the last 24 hours ended at 6 a.m. this morning. That's a rather large area of at least 10 inches estimated rainfall over the last 24 hours. It may be a new entry into the top 10 prolific rainfall days since 2005. We also, unfortunately, seen a devastating tornado outbreak caused by the outer rain bands of Milton moving across the Florida Peninsula. Frictional effects, tremendous amounts of shear, twisting, turning within the atmosphere. And you can see here, this is a capture here by Evan Rosenberg. Tornado hits Avenir in the Palm Beach Gardens. In my in-laws' neighborhood, a dumpster gets lifted onto the roof of this house here. That's a dumpster sitting on top of a roof, and you can see those houses essentially gutted due to not just tornadoes, but unusually powerful tornadoes as well. By the way, this will be a hurricane that's unfortunately going to end up being prolific in terms of producing tornadoes. post here by Andrew Sifford. Yesterday was a significant tornado outbreak from Hurricane Milton. We often don't talk about destructive tornadoes that can cause. We often don't talk about the destruction. I shouldn't have changed that at the same time I was reading. These tornadoes can cause from named storms. Below is our Canopy Weather Tornado Swath product to help understand the damage areas from these tornadoes. So all these red lines show essentially the tornado location and their path. And look at the amount of these tornadoes that they were produced on the south and southeastern flank of the circulation of Milton. So pretty astonishing stuff. There was over 100 tornado warnings issued by the National Weather Service yesterday, the most ever recorded. This was the scene in Port Charlotte. Storm surge running into this parking garage in Port Charlotte. That's what storm surge does. It just basically moves the shore and sweeps everything in their path. So 120 mile per hour Category 3 Hurricane Milton came ashore late last night, and that was the scenes that we've seen. But we'll have another quick look through this in the coming days. Also yesterday, by the way, we've got Arctic air now coming south due to the eastward progress of ex-Hurricane Kirk. It made a landfall in northwestern Florida. Wow, what am I talking about? Florida in the brain. Northwestern Iberia, sorry. So Spain and Portugal hit by heavy rain and gusty winds as well. And also across France as well. We'll look at that in just a second. But this is a tweet here by Harry Hardrada showing that yesterday was a cold day across Scotland. Today, probably even colder. But with several sites breaking their 9th of October cold maximum records. Aviemore only topped 6.5 Celsius, broke its previous record of 7.9 from set back in 92 and 1988 by a large margin. Other daily record cold maximums include Lerwick, 7.8, previous record 8.3, all the way back to 1952. Balta Sound, number 2, 7.9 for a maximum yesterday. Previous was 9.8 in 2020. Aboyne, Aberdeenshire, 8.0, beating the record of 9.6 in 2013 and 2000. Altnahara, 8.2, previous 8.4 set in 2013. Fir Isle, 8.3, previous 8.6 in 75. And Aberdeen Dice broke a record yesterday, 8.5, the previous 9.6 set back in 1980. So quite a notable chilly October 9th yesterday for northern areas of the UK. And you can see here that the current temperatures are as they stand. Let me just bear with a second. You can see here these are the current temperatures. So chilly numbers again, 5s, 6s, 7s and 8s across the north. Only 10 Celsius in the central belt, single figures in the south of Scotland, northern portions of England. Even down across the south of the UK, we're only talking about 10 to 13 Celsius at best. Factor in a brisk northerly breeze, and you've got wind chills close to zero across northern areas of the UK. Look at this here, minus 11 for a wind chill on top of Cairngorm. Bear in mind it's over 4,000 feet above sea level. By the way, we've had some significant snow. Let's have a look at the current webcams. I recorded, or not recorded, but seen my first wet flakes of snow falling on my drive back up to Inverness this morning, early hours of this morning. It was snowing, the temperature was stuck at 1 Celsius, gusty winds blowing as well. It felt more like midwinter for sure across the drive up the A9 during the course of this morning. So it looks as if there's a fairly decent coverage of snow on top of Cairngorm. This is at the restaurant, I believe, on the slopes of Cairngorm Summit at the moment here. So that's a live scene from Cairngorm. And we certainly have got a taste of early winter at the moment. But let's look back at Kirk, because I want to show you this here. This is the 72-hour rainfall totals across Iberia. Let's look at Europe, in fact, get the bigger picture. there's been a fair amount of rain falling across the western half of Europe. Lack of rain across the east, as you can see here. But look at this here across France. We've had some very significant amounts of rainfall over France in the last 72 hours. But as the system, the remnants of Hurricane Kirk, moved into northwestern Iberia, we'll play through this animation. This is the pressure chart here, and you can see that this was Kirk moving through. Unfortunately, the animation doesn't go back to when it made an impact on northwestern Iberia, but you can see here it moved into the central coast of France. As expected, that had been said for several days. In fact, it extended all the way back to the end of last week. I said that it would clip northwestern Iberia, go into the central west coast of France, move right the way across northern France, including right over the Paris area. We've seen some heavy rainfall through the Paris area, into the southern Low Countries, into the north of Germany, and as it stands, it has actually moved up into Scandinavia currently. Looking at the temperatures, no surprise that we've got some colder air digging in the wake of that system. And 850 temperatures are close to -5 over the northern UK at the moment as well. So that's quite a notable chill for, still the first half of October when you think about it. These are the current temperatures, even across Iberia. We've not got a huge amount of warmth to speak about, low to possibly mid-20s at best. You can see here the heat is down across the Balkan region, which has been the case for quite some time now, actually. But this was the scenes, by the way, coming out of parts of Europe due to the passage of ex-Hurricane Kirk. A lot of moisture that was maintained within the circulation itself came out of the tropics, and then it dumped significant amounts of rain northwestern Iberia and into and across a broad swathe of northern France, including Paris as well. This is off Disaster News on Twitter, showing some of the floodings, and this was actually the scene on coastal Portugal. So this is surge coming in due to the wave action. Now, I did say in the video, I think it was yesterday, that we could have seen offshore wave heights of 30, 40, even slightly higher feet across the open Atlantic. And then obviously these moving ashore, they don't come in at 40, 50 feet, thankfully, but nonetheless, they certainly did pack a punch. So looking at a few other things, these are some of the tornadoes that were seen due to the circulation of Milton in Florida. But look at this here. This is as Kirk moved into France. So this is looking out over the Bay of Biscay, and you can see somewhat of a shelf cloud ahead of Kirk moving through. So pretty incredible scenes here along the French coast due to Kirk moving in. So let me see here, we've got some more interesting footage. Just bear with me a second here. This was the scene in Marseille due to that heavy rainfall. Let's have a look and see at Volcanic. They always quite often produce some quite good information with regards to flash flooding. Just bear with me a little second here. So that was the scene in France. I'm sure there were scenes in Spain and Portugal as well. Just bear with me a second here. Sorry folks, I should have had this up and running before now. Where's this here? This is in France as well. So there was wind gusts, I think, in excess of 70, 80 miles per hour that moved along that northwest coast of Iberia, northern Portugal, along the Atlantic coast, and also northwestern Spain. But the rainfall has been pretty prolific, actually, when you look at that there. So this was Spain and Portugal. You can see here totals over 100 millimeters, so that's over 4 inches of rain. And then if you look at southeastern portions of France, we've seen some very significant amounts of rain. So we'll go back here. Let's have a look and see France and see the rainfall over the last 72 hours. What's it going to show me? Anyway, we'll actually skip on from there and move on. So yeah, that was the rain, gusty winds that was seen due to the passage of ex-Hurricane Kirk on Europe. And this is the remnants of Milton now. You can see here, very, very significantly fragmented. There's pretty much no convection. There's pretty much no moisture on the west and south side. It's dragging in some tremendous amounts of dry air. It's caught in some very strong mid and upper level winds as well. There's colder air getting drawn in the Florida and the backside as well. So, but it's a very hybrid look to the system. But yep, NHC still has this as an 80 mile per hour hurricane to the east of Florida, which is rather interesting that it remains a hurricane at this time. So yeah, let's move on here. So the epic rainfall across Europe in association with ex-Hurricane Milton can be quite easily seen. Strong winds now across the central swathe of Europe here. We've seen the strong winds across northern Iberia, through the central swathe of France, and into central areas of Europe here. And these were the rainfall totals, like I said, in the last 72 hours. So you can see even up across northern portions of France, we had probably in excess of 75 to 100 millimeters of rain falling in some places. And that rain has spread into central areas of Europe. So I want to look at what's going on here. So let's get to the current chart here. This is off the ECMWF overview chart, and we're looking at that cold northerly flow. There's the remnants of ex-Hurricane Kirk at the moment here. This was early this morning here. Now if we play through, you can actually see where it lifts up into Scandinavia. But we're also dragging in some particularly cold air. These are the 850 temperatures off the ECM model. And you can see the -5 Celsius isotherm moving into the northern half of the UK here. Back to the overview, and we start to lose that northerly component. We've got another feature running the northerly flow. In fact, you notice here moving into the north of the British Isles here. And then we've got another system moves in across the top of the British Isles through into the early hours of Saturday morning. And then we've got more chilly air moving in. But notice high pressure builds in temporarily during the course of Saturday into Sunday. Cold night underneath those clear skies, light winds and settled conditions. And then we've got a change coming up. We've got changes taking place as the remnants of Milton moves into the Atlantic, increases the temperature gradient, increases the strength of the jet stream. We also seen the change of the MJO moving from the Atlantic into the Indian Ocean. We're starting to see that effect on the mid and upper level pattern across the higher latitudes here. So we start to change the shape of the overall situation. Notice here higher pressure gives way to low pressure between the UK and Greenland. Higher pressure now displaced down across Europe. We've got a southerly or southwesterly airflow as we progress through the course of next week here. We've got weather systems moving in from the south, but that's a milder direction if you notice. We'll look at the 850s here for the middle portions of next week. Now we see the return of 10 Celsius at 5,000 feet moving into the UK. So it's going to be quite a dramatic change early to mid next week versus what we have now. Cold northerly flow, Arctic air coming south. We're going to have some subtropical air moving northwards as we progress through the middle portions of next week. So I want to show you a couple of interesting things with regards to what's going on in the stratosphere. We still have a very weak polar vortex. At 10 millibars, we are actually seeing the PV growing stronger, albeit it's weaker than it should be for the time of the year. It should be colder, it should be stronger at this time of the year. We've had a lot of warming coming off Siberia, displacing the vortex to the south somewhat. And what I want to show you is, I want to kind of build this case with regards to, we've got the NAO and the AO going back towards neutral, if not positive, as we progress through the course of next week. We're seeing the changes taking place in the pattern. We're seeing higher pressure. We're seeing milder conditions return to western areas of Europe after what has been a very negative Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation pattern in the last few weeks anyway. But I want to show you here the fact that the model indicates, even as we move down to the 50 millibar level, while we are seeing the PV strengthen somewhat in the upper levels of the stratosphere. You look down at the lower stratosphere, there's still a lot of blocking over the top. That represents tropospheric blocking underneath. And if we play all the way out to about a week from now, you can see here that the modelling still indicates a lot of blocking within the lower stratosphere here. So a lot of the influence is from the 500 millibar pattern all the way up to 50 millibars. It's releasing that heat flux from troposphere into the stratosphere. And what I'm getting at here is we're going to see the pattern relax somewhat. We're going to see the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation going back neutral or positive. But with this situation within the lower stratosphere, all it would take is for the Mann-Julian Oscillation to go from the Indian Ocean across the maritime continent, which is biased towards mild across eastern North America, Western Europe. We're going to see that taking place during the second half of October. But then, with the MJO expected to continue progressing eastwards, if we look at this off the ECMWF, this is the vertical velocity potential. You can see here all the greens representing rising motion over the Indian Ocean. That's phase 1 and 2, or 3 and 4 of the MJO. Look at the sinking now starting to show up over the Atlantic. I would expect to see the tropics ease in terms of activity. But watch here, as we play through this loop, you see that area of greens representing rising motion, the MJO stuck over the Indian Ocean. It progresses into the maritime continent. That's a mild phase. So this is out to Wednesday the 16th, middle of next week. I would expect the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation to go back towards neutral to positive, especially the NAO. But watch as it moves through, it's expected to go back into phases 6, 7, 8, 1. Now that would then correlate 10, 14 days after the fact, the potential of what we've just seen with the negative Arctic Oscillation, negative North Atlantic Oscillation coming back into sequence as we begin the month of November. So I wouldn't be surprised we see milder conditions towards the second half of this month, and then we go back something colder towards early and mid-November. That is the kind of thinking that I have at the moment regarding the pattern. But it has been wet. People, I'm sure, are fed up looking at rain. This was the scene, by the way, on the A1, or the area around the A1 in County Durham. This is from Paul Kingston, I believe. And this is a scene that can be replicated across many areas of the UK, especially England and Wales. And this was a video captured by Paul Kingston, in County Durham back, I think, a couple of days ago. And we've seen a lot of rain during the month of September. As we know, we're seeing a lot of rain even into the month of October as well. And this was the scene, by the way, in Galicia in northwestern Spain, due to Kirk also. So we're seeing these epic rains. What does that actually mean as we go into the winter season? That will remain very much to be seen. But I want to show you, the last thing, I want to show you this here, because this is quite an interesting tweet here regarding the longer term situation here. This is a really interesting stuff here by this person. I think it's Eagle. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be talking rubbish there, by the way. But check this out here. This is a tweet that was put out 2 hours ago by this particular person. And it kind of coincides quite nicely with what I was saying. In the next few days, a positive NAO, positive Scandinavian atmospheric pattern will establish over the Euro-Atlantic region, breaking in the next 2 weeks long-standing negative NAO episode. So we're breaking this long-standing negative Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation pattern in response to the current MJO phase 3 over the Indian Ocean, moving into phases 4 and 5 next week. And that will strengthen the stratospheric polar vortex and rise the AM So I hope that makes sense here. So you can see the blocking over the northern hemisphere, multiple wave breaking, positive NAO develops, positive Scandinavian. We've got that digging trough over Iberia. We're going to continue to see heavy rainfall, especially across southern Spain and Portugal. That was mentioned in the last couple of videos here. Low pressure north of the Himalayas and West Pacific high pressure. Looking at some of the modelling, this is taking us out to the 17th of October here. You can see the pattern changing in response to that eastward propagating MJO pulse. So the person goes on to say, if you look at the thread, that since early October and throughout September, the negative NAO was very dominant, associated with the record weak stratospheric polar vortex, led by ozone-induced warming. Now, I mentioned that in the live stream back last Sunday about the high levels of ozone, possibly due to the solar maximum. Don't want to get too much into that. A positive WP, positive PNA, and West Pacific MJO influence. As the MJO started to move into the Indian Ocean, stratospheric polar vortex strengthens and the positive PNA, positive WP weakens. Second part of October expected to break the last weeks. And what we are going to see, so we're seeing a bit of an increase in strength according to this tweet here of the stratospheric polar vortex. So up in the upper levels of the stratosphere, we're actually starting to see cooling taking place, but it's weaker underneath. So quite a lot of stuff here that's quite technical, so I kind of want to skip over that. But basically, this person goes on to say that we will potentially see the pattern return as we move into the early portions of November here. So in the longer term, positive Scandinavian could shift towards the North Atlantic as the MJO progresses through phases 5, 6, and 7. So I've already mentioned that in late October and early November, further disrupting the jet and potentially leading to the return of a negative NAO regime in early November, leading to cooler and wetter conditions. So that's the thinking as we move into the longer term. Let's have a very quick look at the model here. This is the ECM seasonal forecast for November. And you can see here a lot of blocking North Atlantic, Greenland, up into the Arctic region here. If we look at the ECM weeklies real quick, you can see what it's indicating. So we've got the negative over the UK at the moment, positive over Greenland. But if we skip through into the 7 to 10 day period, or actually this isn't the 7 day increments. Let's look at the 7 day increments real quick. I'm conscious of time here because dinner is ready. This is the upcoming 7 days, so a lot of low pressure. You can see the block shrinking over Greenland, and then in the 7 to 10 day, we've got a change. Block now gone. We've got the negative now over the North Atlantic extending in the Greenland region over both Eastern North America, Western Europe. Play through this loop, and eventually what you see is the block returns to the pattern as we move in through the month of November. So we'll watch this space as we go forward, eastward movement of the MJO, and see how that responds to the overall pattern. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Lots of content coming up here in the channel, so you know the drill. Like and subscribe. See you next time with more. Bye for now.